Welcome to Synapse Sessions, where we talk with experts who are changing the game in Amazon selling. Today I'm joined by Alex Karagiannis from Lezat Limited, who's helped over 500 brands expand on Amazon, including S&P 500 companies. Alex reveals why Amazon EU is 4 times more profitable than the US, growth hacks working in 2025, and why European expansion is now a necessity for serious sellers. If you're ready to scale beyond your home market, this conversation shows you exactly what's working now. Let's jump into the session. So, hey, Alex, your agency's helped over 500 brands expand on Amazon. For sellers looking to grow beyond their home market, specifically in the US, because that's where a lot of Amazon sellers are selling, what's the biggest misconception about Amazon EU expansion?
I would say the biggest misconception when it comes to selling to Amazon Europe is that Amazon Europe is very small and that it's not worth selling in, especially for US clients. It's sometimes a bit more difficult to communicate that there's other marketplaces as well where Amazon is actually growing and growing much more rapidly than they are in their hometown, which is US. So I think that's a very big misconception of that it might not be worth it to do Amazon Europe.
Okay, but actually you think it really is, right?
It's not what I think, it's what data shows in terms of sellers compared to the average revenue that the sellers do on Amazon Europe versus USA. If you include the competitions and the market size, it's about 4 times more in Europe compared to USA. And the reason behind this is not so much the revenue size of the whole of Europe, but more on the competition size. So I'm sure a lot of your audience might have products that they sell on Amazon and have a lot of competition, mainly from Asia, usually. This is not so much the case in Europe. There is, but not to the same extent there is in USA. So therefore, competition is less. So that what that means is, as the marketplaces are growing, we started with Spain, Germany, France, and Italy. Now it's moved into Poland, Belgium, Netherlands, Sweden, Ireland, and it keeps on expanding. That means also that there's more room to grow. And Amazon is only one piece of the equation. Obviously, there's other marketplaces and brick and mortar stores and distribution channels. So when you factor all those things in there, it's a no-brainer for Amazon sellers who are above a certain point to expand into Europe is not a sound strategy, but a necessity to diversify and maintain your cash flow. You never know what's going to happen with tariffs or global disruptions nowadays.
Yeah, for sure. So you mentioned maybe a lot of competition might be coming from like China, for example, in the US. Now with Europe, why is that not as much of a factor? Is it just because they just haven't tried as hard there yet? Or are there other like barriers to entries for them there? Or is it more complicated?
A mix of all these things that you mentioned. So, for example, selling directly from China, sending the products into the US is still possible, whereas in Europe it's not. You have to go through duties, etc. So that's one element. The other element is there's legislations. So you need to have a company based in Europe. You need to have a contact number based in Europe and all of those things. So you need to have a presence. So it's not the case that you can just do it sloppily, let's say, and below the radar and all of that stuff that happens a lot of the times in US. And arguably, it also happens nowadays sometimes in UK as well. So that's the main reason why competition is less in Europe. So doing it correctly takes a bit of time, and therefore it's not as easy to enter as USA. So that's why the competition is less.
What are maybe some specific unexpected challenges that sellers might face going into the European market, and which of the markets in Europe might be a better way to start?
Yeah. So we've got a whole blueprint around these things, but the first step you would go would be to understand how big the market size is. The second step is, should you decide to enter, the first hurdle, let's say, you're going to find is compliance. So is what does the legislation say in Europe for me to sell the products there? So what should my packaging say, the warnings, any FDA equivalent approvals, things like that. Some products are easier to sell, Tupperware, some more difficult to sell, supplements, for example, or things that we consume. So you need to know your compliance, you need to know your regulatory things very well so that you're able to adjust some time and budget accordingly to create the packaging, create all those things. The next is then the VAT registration, the tax registration, and things like that. So the accounting, let's say the finance bit, which that takes a bit of time. Some countries are way faster than others. UK, for example, is 48 hours. Germany is 3 months. So it's good to talk to an expert agency that knows how to expand to Europe. Nowadays, there's a lot of agencies, especially in US as well on Amazon, but not a lot of them know what it actually means to sell on Amazon Europe. So it's very important to have that knowledge because you need to do every step correctly at a time. And then after the finance bit, I guess the next is the whole Amazon side of things. So localization, translation, content being uploaded correctly, what barcode should I use, how do I keep my reviews, how do I use content that I have in US, in Europe, and multiple languages, and obviously launching on Amazon. So those would be actually some of the big pillars, I would say.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And you mentioned, you have a whole blueprint around this, and we could talk about how people could reach out to you maybe at the end of the show to, if they do want to find more information on that, because it sounds quite complex. You did mention some some niches might be more difficult, especially like supplements, for example, or like regulations and whatnot. But I guess, because especially with there's less competition there. So what niches would you say are good ones to start with? If maybe it's a new seller or if somebody's already selling in the US, maybe they want to say, okay, well, yeah, I'm definitely in that niche that is a good fit for Europe. It's easy to get into,
So I would say, as a general rule of thumb, it's not a good idea to think about Amazon Europe unless you're doing at least 1 million on Amazon per year in USA. Because there's a lot of requirements that are needed. It's not so much the setup fee. People don't understand the complexities that comes when you're actually shipping in 2 different places. So your manufacturer has to create 1 container for US and 1 container for Europe. But will it be a container? Probably not at the beginning. It's going to be a few pallets. How do you ship them? So therefore, we always advise that if you're doing at least 80K, 90K a month on Amazon consistently, so you're 1 million, then it's a good idea to think about Amazon Europe. Now, on which, as a general rule of thumb, how easy was the product to get live on Amazon? If it was easy on your home country, let's say it's USA, but equally it applies if it was Canada, if it was Mexico, if it was Japan, Australia, wherever it was. If it was easy to set up, then it's going to be also easy to set up in Europe. If Amazon required a lot of certificates, because maybe it's a supplement, maybe it's a cream, maybe it's some children's toys, things like that, then it's going to be also difficult to do in Europe, and sometimes the legislation and approvals might be more expensive. So I would say, as a general rule, if you're doing supplements, for example, yes, explore it, discuss it with an approved partner that knows about compliance, etc. So how easy is it to send these, turmeric supplements from the US over in Europe, and then see if it's a case of moving across. Things that are around, let's say, socks, tech, that sort of area, those tend to be very things for kitchen, office, DIY, all of these work well. Obviously, in Europe, we have metric system, so you want to consider this because your centimeters, your Oz, your grams, all of that, and more importantly, the plugs. Plugs can be a nightmare because you need to change the socket. So if it's an electronic goods, socket it will cause you issues. And then changing the socket means you change the barcode, which means you start from scratch. But anyway, there's ways to go about this so that you maintain those reviews when you move across.
I wanted to transition Amazon in general. You tell me 1 or 2 current underutilized Amazon growth strategies you're seeing kind of work exceptionally well in 2025?
Mm-hmm. So, okay. So I would probably say three. So I'll start with ones that take maybe 1 hour to implement, others that take maybe one week to implement, and maybe others that take maybe a day to implement. Okay, so depend on what you have. So your listeners have a variation. So if you have only 1 hour to spend on your Amazon account to grow sales, right? It would be look at your brand tailored promotions. Okay, so in there you will see a type of activity you can do in terms of targeting cart abandonment. That's one thing that is underutilized a lot. So someone added to cart, they didn't buy, you can target them with, let's say, 10% off so that they buy. Also experiment with the other promotions that it gives you. That takes nothing. That for a first-time user to do it, it's probably 15 minutes, and I'm very generous with this. It's actually a minute thing. So that's if you have 1 hour. Now, also, if your products are subscribe and save, so if it's supplements, if people would buy them again, etc., make sure you put a coupon for subscribe and save, and make sure that you have enabled the max available discount for subscribe and save. This is going to save you long term. So people that buy your product don't have to go to Amazon again and buy it, but just subscribe. That's the 1 hour one. Now, if we're going to go to the 1 day one, it would be have a look at your top 10 competitors in UK, Germany, and USA. Even if you don't sell in UK and Germany, look at their main image. Then spend time to look at the reviews. Have a look at the 1-star reviews, have a look at the 2-star reviews, have a look at the 5-star reviews. Okay? I'm expecting you here for you to spend something like 3 to 4 hours. Now, there's faster ways of doing this. You can actually analyze it with AI and download reviews. So if you want to do it that way, great. If you're old school, do it manually. What I'm looking for here is a pattern between two things. What is very important to customers, and what does my main image show? So then you're quickly going to be able to correlate the top 10 best sellers. How much of that things that people are saying on the reviews are actually on their main image? We're only looking at main image here. Nothing, no infographic, nothing else. So then review yours. Are you mentioning those things? Are you mentioning it's a lifetime warranty? Are you mentioning made in USA? This is very hot right now, for example, for US companies and US Amazon. Are you mentioning all those things that make you differentiate and the things that people are looking for? Easy fit, maybe, vegan, GMO, friendly, all of that stuff? So that's the 1 day one, okay? Yeah. And then if we're going to take it to another level and we want to actually look at 1 week, then we're going to go into a bit deeper analysis, and it's actually taking all those reviews that we mentioned and then replicating it into the other areas, which is the infographics, which is the A+ content, and all of those things. So not just looking at the main image, but holistically all my product, how it stands. So I would say that is probably 3 hacks for you, how to grow, depending how much time you have.
Okay. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Or if you're using an agency, tell them to do that for you. That's also one way.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, because you can kind of prioritize your strategies and your implementation, and you just plan on some things taking a lot longer to implement and plan for that. And I really just to back up the one thing you talked about, the subscribe and save. Yeah, that seems just super critical, especially when it comes, because if it's that upfront investment, maybe you lose a bill on the front end because you're offering that discount, but you have to think more in the terms of the lifetime value of the customer that's going to pay dividends in the long run, especially if you're selling a supplement, anything like that. And today's cost per clicks are rising, and a lot of people are struggling with ad costs. What's your approach to maintaining and improving ACOS in that environment?
Yeah, well, a very topical question. One of the main thing people come to us for is the case that Amazon is becoming very expensive for them. ACOS is skyrocketing, especially in US. PPC is very expensive compared to Europe. Even for the same keyword, you might actually find 4 times more expensive in US as opposed to Europe. as an FYI. But again, in my opinion, the only thing that Amazon PPC does, end of the day, is it brings customers to your shop. So if you run a restaurant, it's going to be that person outside the balloon that actually says, hey, come in, come in. Now, when the customers do come in, it's actually all the other factors that need to be taken into consideration to do a sale. Perceived value being the number one priority on Amazon, then reviews and price, etc. So really, this is why it needs to work hand in hand. This is why you need to have a team of experts to support Amazon, not just one individual. Obviously, I'm talking for specific levels. People who are starting Amazon as a side business and they're at the beginning steps, maybe they can DIY all of those things on their own, understandably. But after a certain point, you actually need a PPC expert, you need a design expert, you need a data expert, and so on and so forth, content, copy, catalog, and so on. Because all these people have to work together in order to give you the desired results. So the number one rule for bringing down ACOS is improve your click-through rate. The best way would be main image. If you can't, look at the other factors: reviews, price, coupons, vouchers, promotions, etc., badges. And then see, once they land inside, what is it that's making them not convert, right? If you do what I just said before around competitors, etc., that's going to bring you to the right level of understanding what you need to work on. And as a tip for more experienced sellers, you can actually get a lot of this info from brand analytics and SQP. So you can benchmark your product compared to competitors where it is on the funnel. So on the impressions, on the click-through rate, on the conversion, add to cart, etc. So you know where you stand.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And I guess, with what you said there and the other strategies you mentioned, for maybe right now in this particular time, this quarter in Amazon, what would be of those, or maybe there's something else that maybe an Amazon business should focus on to have the maximum impact right now with everything going on?
Yeah, well, it's a very tricky one because it's something that needs to be assessed by each business individually. But one thing that we're seeing a lot is there's a big rush for this window between China and USA for people to import goods, etc., and be ready for Q4. So that's, I would say, a short to mid-term is your inventory strategy. And how are you going to secure to have enough inventory? Are you going to go for a bonded warehouse? Are you just going to ship more? What is it going to look like? Second, it goes without saying that what I mentioned at the beginning, selling outside of Amazon USA as a USA seller is not only a necessity, but it's vital for your business continuity. So you need to start looking at diversifying on other Amazon marketplaces or even at brick and mortar stores or other marketplaces, etc. But even if it's brick and mortar in USA, you're again affected by the same problem. So therefore, you need to sit down and have a strong look about it. Now, you could either go about selling from different places or changing your sourcing. So moving from China to India or Vietnam or other countries where actually you can get the products without these tariffs on. So preparing for the year ahead and Q4, I would start now. I wouldn't bother so much for Prime Day, for example. I would focus on Q4 and what I need to do to make sure you have a good Q4.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. Why? Because I have my opinions about Prime Day, but I wanted to hear your opinion about Prime Day and like the I don't know, big day sales, they're having like multiple Prime Days now. What are your general thoughts on Prime Day, since that's coming up soon here?
Yeah, of course. So there's quite a few different variations of this. Depends. First of all, if I have data, so not all products are equal, right? A sun cream is going to be different than headphones, is going to be different than, I don't know, a printer or maybe socks, right? So you want to see, is my product heavily affected by things like Prime Day, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, etc.? Then what happened the years before? If you don't have data, look at the competitors, Helium 10, see what happens on those days. It's easy to get it. So for the majority of the clients that we see, it's not really worth it to do many things on Prime Day. it's not worth it. You're going to get an increase in traffic. Try and be very profitable from it. That's a place to squeeze profitability. And don't have your PPC just overspend. Make sure you have the budget rules and all that so you don't overspend. For some others, it might be the case that actually they launch a new product range or they actually get an increase in sales on Prime Day. So in which case you do capitalize on it. It's also the same clients where Cyber Monday works well for them and Black Friday, all of that weekend anyhow. It works very well for them. So again, you want to have a strategy for that. So it really depends. But I would say most of the time, 90% of the cases, even for the products that I sell on Amazon, I just make sure I'm going to get an increase in traffic, about 4 times more sales than I would normally do if everything remains equal. And I just want to remain profitable. Subscribe and save can actually work really well with this. So you get more subscribers and all the things that we discussed before, brand cut abandonment, etc., etc. Mm-hmm. What was your take on it on Prime Day?
Well, yeah, I mean, I generally, well, not with every brand again, but I've seen some brands kind of Prime Day just be, or big day sales with all these different promotions they're doing. It seems to be really good for Amazon. They're making quite a bit of profit during these times, but maybe it ends up being kind of a wash for other brands, a lot of the brands selling, because maybe they have to promote heavily to keep up. And then there might be even maybe a dip in sales because people know Prime Day is coming, and even a dip in sales after. So have you seen that as well? Or, I mean, again, it could be brand to brand different.
Yeah, true. It does happen. You're right that there's an effect days after Prime Day, for example, and for Cyber Monday and Black Friday, where sales are a bit lower, and how you manage this, of course. Yeah, I agree.
How should Amazon businesses leverage AI in 2025? What's your opinion on that? And does it depend on the business again and their kind of skill level, or is it are there things that kind of anyone can do to leverage AI?
Yeah. Look, I would say, for example, it depends on the level that you're in. So one would be, again, you can make a list of all the copy of your competitors, add your copy in there and say to AI, how would you improve this copy? And then whatever it says, it's not that is the reality. It would be something you need to filter through and see, does it make sense, etc. So this exercise could work in conjunction with the exercise I mentioned before around reviews. That's if you're at a very basic level, if you don't know a lot how to use AI, etc. Now, if you're a bit more advanced level, actually you can, for Amazon sellers, you can actually start investigating a bit more your seasonality patterns. So last year, how much did I sell in Q3? How much do I forecast sales being now? So you can do some of that work, for example. It can help you with inventory forecasting. So per SKU, for example, last 6 months. And if so, this was sales last year, half one, half two. This year, these are the sales, half one. What do you expect half two to be per child SKU? So this is very relevant for some sellers who struggle with variations and multiple lacings and what to restock, etc. And then there's agents, actually. So you can actually, depending on how much volume you have as a business, if you're a big Amazon seller, potentially investing in someone outside, creating an agent for you, how to do correct listing optimization, how to know if a product has policy violations or something that's not allowed, would be very beneficial to you. Again, different levels, but depends on the experience and in-house experience people have on AI.
Are there AI-driven inventory management strategies that you found work particularly well in the European marketplace expansion?
Yeah, because in Europe, you're dealing with many different countries, so it can be a bit chaotic getting all these Excels into one. So if it's a case of merging them, for example, AI can help you. If it's a case of just creating an agent and you just send all these and it does automatically this for you, it's worth it. The more you use it, the more you're going to find benefits on creating this. Even translation at a very basic level is actually very good nowadays with AI. Especially for the context that you want to go into. Again, you can feed listings from your competitors that you know that the translations are accurate because maybe they're local sellers, for example, so that then you can use similar sort of terminology, can match it towards the industry you're in, etc., and help you out a bit because translations can be thorns when it comes to expanding into Europe.
As far as your personal experience or experience level and or tech savvy with AI, do you have quite a bit of experience creating AI agents to help different projects?
So we are 21, I think, last count, person team here at Lezat. So I've got two people who actually are very good with AI. It's not their job, but they're very savvy with AI, and they build these agents for us. So we have quite a few agents that do a bit of work. Some for listing optimization, some for compliance, some for seller support, etc., etc.
What's your prediction, kind of biggest opportunity or challenge Amazon sellers will face in European markets over the next 12 to 18 months or the next year or so?
The biggest challenge or the biggest opportunity?
Yeah, could be. Yeah, biggest challenge or opportunity. Yeah.
I mean, biggest challenge is in the time for setup in Europe might go up, which has happened in the past. When we had a Brexit happen in UK, there was a huge backlog on Amazon on Germany, to get the tax numbers. So I do expect the time for you to take the tax number in Germany is going to go up, and now it's anywhere between 2 to 3 months. I expect this to go up. So that's a big challenge. That a lot of people are actually moving across from USA to Europe and continuing selling there as well. The biggest opportunity will be as Amazon is growing, how you keep up with it. And in USA, there's not a lot of places to go. Canada is done, USA is done, Mexico is done. So there's not any other countries to expand. Central America, I don't see this happening. Latin America is another thing, but that comes with its own set of complications because it's all separate countries, the infrastructure, how big the countries are, and all of that things. Whereas in Europe, it keeps on expanding. So you want to think about, yes, Amazon, but each country has distributors, brick and mortar, offline, etc. So there should be a strategy how your brand enters those countries. And even if you don't want to be the person who sells on Amazon, it's very easy to find distributors and wholesalers to sell your product. So that's something that's actually a very big opportunity for sellers in 2025 and beyond.
Okay. Yeah, great to know. Well, hey, Alex, how can people reach out if they want to work with your knowledgeable and skilled team, especially whether it be just for managing their account or brand in general, or if they need help expanding into Europe if they're at that level?
Yeah, so they can reach at lezat.co.uk, or they can find me, Alex Karagiannis, on LinkedIn and reach out to me. We do offer audits for these. So how would Amazon Europe look for companies that are looking to go across? They should be doing, as I mentioned, at least 1 million on Amazon USA. So that's the threshold that we have. So that's the two best ways, I would say, LinkedIn or on our website, lezat.co.uk.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, very important to mention there, yeah, they should definitely just reach out, maybe talk to you, get on a call and have you look over their account and see if they're a good fit, to move to Europe.
Correct. And there's been many times the cases where we've had clients that they saved big fines because they hadn't done some things correctly on the tax situation. They hadn't done some things on the compliance situation. It's much more beneficial and stress-free to have an expert on your side to take you on that journey rather than try and do it on your own. So yeah, that's what I would recommend. Make sure you have the right partner. If it's not us, make sure you have a right partner that goes with you and has a lot of experience of Amazon Europe. It's a separate thing than Amazon USA when it comes to all the complexities that come with it, but it's definitely worth it.
Okay. I'm going to also leave your contact info down in the description below for anyone interested. And sure. Yeah, I appreciate you being on, and thanks.
No problem at all. Thank you.